is importing and exporting data. So this is something that's really important because you'll be using a lot of data files, and data is just something like is very useful to manipulate in Matlab because almost anything can be expressed as a matrix and manipulated that way. So you want to make sure that you can import data like that, because files are really big matrices. So one thing to know is that this is what's called your file path here at the top. So it's where is Matlab looking for your files? One thing which is to keep in mind, and this is constant throughout all languages, and it's not just unique to Matlab, is that you have to have your files in the file path that Matlab is looking at. So Matlab has like a nice interface, so you can actually see where it's going, almost like your folders or your Finder on your regular desktop, and you can actually like see exactly what files it's looking at. So if I'm trying to find a file in like this folder called Lab 12, it's not going to be able to look for it. It can only look for any of these files. So just make sure everything is in the same folder. I personally like to do it by projects or sometimes by classes, depending on how MATLAB intensive it is. So when you start using like functions, those functions also have to be in that same folder. Otherwise, it's not going to be able to find it. So there's like a couple different file types that MATLAB supports. So .mat files store like variables and functions. So like I can just pull this out. So this is like an is close function. So like when you assert things, like is the number close enough with like a tolerance. So then when I call like the is close function, it'll put a result in a matrix. So that's like you can create functions that way. I believe we might elaborate on that in a future workshop. So those are like .m files. You can have CSV, Excel files, text, and you can turn those into matrices. So I've included a link for like an import-export chart. And you can see like, okay, what's like my file type, and then I can see the import and export functions. So I'm just gonna walk through like an image file. So one thing which you wanna do is you wanna set it into a variable, your data into a variable, otherwise like you can't really manipulate it. So I'm gonna call this variable rabbit, and I'm gonna say I am read, and then the file name. So like, as you can see, like sometimes MATLAB will have this pop up as well. So the file name has to be in a string. And what that means is like, it just has to be in quotes. So you put, so I'm gonna use this file rabbit-bw JPEG. So rabbit bw JPEG. Okay. One thing about this is that it has to be exactly the same case, exactly the same spelling, and even include the file type here. So that it's like literally looking through all your files and looking based on string and trying to match exactly the case. So if it's not, it's gonna freak out and it's not gonna know where to look. And make sure it's in a string, because if I were to not put it in a string, it's gonna think this is a variable. Right, so it's gonna yell at me. So yeah, so what IamRead does, and mainly like all these like import functions, is it'll put it into a matrix. So as you can see here, IamRead, it'll put it into a matrix, as we can see here. So yeah, so this is like a matrix of pixels. I'll actually show you. So IamShow is like image show. And because I put it into a matrix, I put the input as a matrix. And you can see like the little figure here. And there's ways to like manipulate the border and everything. So like if I'm like, I don't know, I want to manipulate the border and things like that, I can do help IamShow. And then it'll give me the documentation. So like right here, it's like border and making it loose. Oh, okay, this is gonna hurt. so making it loose and things like that. So you can manipulate it like that. If you're like, oh, maybe can I edit it somehow? It'll tell you all of that and gives some, yeah, so sometimes it'll give you like an example, like how to read and show it. Now let's say like I have a matrix, right? It's the 236 by 236, and it's like a unit in type, in 8 type, so it's like an 8-bit. But I want to like change the color and mess around with it. So another way to like export your thing is using like I am right. So like here it says like I am right. So like either like I manipulated the matrix, I shrinked it, expanded it, whatever, I did my matrix map with it, and I want to put it back into a new file. So let's see if I can get it to pop up. Okay, so you see like the name and file name. So I'm actually going to change the color map. So right now it's black and white. I can show you what I wanted first. So like Matlab has like some things called like color maps, and they're like ways to change the color of your image. So like this is going to be like changes all like the white to yellow and the black to blue, and you can look those up as well. So I am right. Rabbit is like my data. Then I'm going to add the color map called summer, and then we put in the file name. Now this is kind of standard for usually like exporting functions. Is you'll have your function, usually your data, and then your file name. So I want to store it into like this JPEG that I already have here. You can rewrite it into your original file, but I kind of want to preserve that. So I'm going to just put it into this copy. It's called rabbitsummer.jpg. Put that there. Actually, before I hit enter, I'll actually show you. So right now what summer looks like. So summer right now is just this black and white image, right? But do something really cool here, magic. When I press enter, now it's changed to the color that I want. So like it'll rewrite the image essentially, and that's how you can save it like that. Another thing is like if you're like, oh, I don't really know how to input, and you just double click here, it'll import it and then create variables matching preview, finish, and now you have your variable with the exact same like file type name. So that's also another way that you can import files.